submitted earlier. Let me take one of these now. As a guy working in Suffolk County Council, I felt the work you did around flexible working only actually reinforced further barriers. The expectation comes across that women work part-time and men do extra hours in the evening. Oh, you're nodding and making a little face. Can I come to you then, Rebecca? What do you think?
Well, flexible working is really important, but there is an assumption that flexible working should be for the female, the parent, for example, who takes on the parenting role. So I think I was lucky when I was pregnant. My husband and I decided that parenting is a 50-50 split, and some weeks my boys will think that dad's the only person there, and other weeks I think it's mum's the only person there. So it swings and roundabouts. But I do also know of friends who agreed that the parenting should be a 50-50 split, but then when it came to actually the male wanting to then take the flexible working, which they'd agreed to when the friend was pregnant and when they had the child, they actually didn't feel confident enough to be able to ask for that flexible working, because it was perceived that it should not be him taking the flexible working, it should be the female. So I think there's a lot to do about, going back to Mark's point about perception and about how flexible working actually brings out the best in whether you're male or female, because if you're sympathetic to the person's lifestyle, and therefore if someone's baby is sick, that they can stay at home and equally do their work at home, then you actually get more out of that person, because they think, okay, they were sympathetic with me at this point, so I'm more prepared to perhaps work later another night and put those hours in. So it brings benefits, but again, it's a perception thing, and giving people confidence, and males in particular, to be able to say, look, I have just as much rights, I'm a parent as well, to take these flexible hours for this time than my counterpart does.
Paul?
I'd be really concerned if the message about flexible working is landing in that sort of way. And when I was spoken to about it, you may have had the unfortunate experience of seeing my face on various posters throughout the building. Although the one in Landmark, where I'm normally based, has now got a little moustache on it. But one of the reasons I was really keen to tell my story, as it were, in relation to flexible working, is very much along the lines of what Becky's talking about, and that's about my responsibility in a partnership bringing up children. And it kind of speaks to some degree to one of the previous points, that how you support men as parents does also have an impact on how women can function in the workplace as parents as well. Because if you're able to engender and practically have things in place as an employer which enables all parents to work flexibly in order to support their children or indeed their older relatives, then that has a profound effect on how that partnership can actually play out in reality.
That actually fits in really nicely with this other one. Why is it when a man is involved in their child, like taking a day off if the child's sick or leaving early to pick the children up, they're praised as the example of a real hands-on dad. It's so great you're involved. How can you encourage men to take time off when children require
that's a fair comment, because that should just be your normal responsibility, and certainly something that I regret. I mean, my daughter needs quite a lot of, I won't go into details, quite personal, but my daughter needs quite a lot of support, and I work very flexibly in my role. I'm fortunate in a role I'm supported in terms of the culture of the bit of the council that I work in particular to be able to do that. But we're able to share that responsibility to support my daughter in that way, and that does mean, let's be fair now, I have to take my responsibilities as a senior manager of the organisation really seriously as well. But that does mean I do have to do work at weekends, I do have to do work at evenings. But I really value that, because that means I can meet both my obligations as a senior leader in this organisation and as a loving parent to my daughter and son, in fact.
I just wanted to pick up on that point actually. As the chair of the Women's Network, it's not just women that need to discuss about that inclusivity and the equality, and how can we, from an SEC point of view, involve more men in the Women's Network? I mean, I'd really like to know your thoughts, because it's not just a women's problem, it's everyone's conversation. So I'd really like to know how we can do that.
Can I just make a more general comment before I actually comment on that? So, I don't know who it was that made that comment. Was that someone in the workplace? So it's a bit like going back to the firefighters. I think as an organisation we have a real responsibility, which I know I take seriously, and my colleagues and members, about setting the right conditions and the right culture for equality, diversity, inclusion. But we are also, as Mark said, we are a reflection of society. So this is in no way to downplay our responsibility, I emphasise that. But outside of the workplace, there is a huge amount that works against that. So I don't know, where that comment came from, but it's a bit like when kids are young, you give the boy the fire engine and the girl the doll, or whatever the stereotypical thing. So there's a whole, it's Fireman Sam. It's Trumpton, if you can remember, they were all men, and there's many other examples. So we are, So can I think there's some context here. I would just say, as the chief executive, that we have a huge responsibility, and I emphasise again our importance of that. But there's also, the thing about self-responsibility, and how we as a society do that. The media, the way the media portray certain things, and so on. So I just think we've got to bear that in mind. There's a huge amount we can do, but in terms of, one of us speaking to the some women in Essex, actually got played back strongly that the women that don't have children sometimes feel very discriminated against. It's all about being a parent. I know Paul's made the point about elderly parents. So there is something about balance in this debate. I totally get, but I just would ask, it's important that we, that in terms of us challenging what happens in our homes, what happens with our families, the language, right from the start. Because one of the ways we will get more diversity in the fire service is not having that situation where only one girl puts her hand up and the rest looks for permission. And why are the rest not interested in that? But is that because actually what's happened back at home, or the way it's talked about? So I just think there's something here about that broader debate as well. We can only do so much in the workplace, albeit it's really important.
Mark, then I'll come to you, all right?
Yeah, just responding to Becky's point about the networks, really. I think that there's a role that we have and we've taken on as a corporate leadership team. So we're all linked to a staff network. I'm linked to the mental health network, attending one of their events next week. As an example, again, coming back to, I'll just use the 6 hours at Lowestoft Fire Station yesterday. And we talked about the mental health network, and we talked about the Suffolk Women in Fire Together, the SWIFT network that's just been set up by colleagues in the room. And so you have to tell people. So I said to people, SWIFT is not a network for women. SWIFT is a network about what it's like to be a woman in the fire and rescue service. Go join it. You're working with women in the fire service, you're managing women in the fire service. Go and listen to the perspective of women in the fire and rescue service. It will make you a better manager. It will do what I said right at the start, make you a good leader, because you have to do equality, diversity and inclusion well.
Yeah.
So I was six men I was having the conversation with yesterday. We had a 20-minute conversation about menopause, which we would never have done a couple of years ago. And it was amazing the amount of, in some respects, no knowledge, in other respects, quite a lot of knowledge about the menopause, and people saying, my wife and things like that, and a few of us had watched the programme on the television a month or so ago about the menopause, and we talked about the male menopause, and is it a myth, does it exist, and all that sort of stuff. So I think you have to do that, and then I think there's a responsibility to the networks to market themselves to a broader, and I know you do. I'm not saying you don't.
It does get quite a bit of negativity at networks in general, so it's a real tough balance, and I've said to colleagues who are men, come along, it'd be really great to see you. I can't come to that. Oh, is it for me as well? So it's a difficult one, but we do need to involve more men.
Actually called the